Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are a generation like no other. In a world in which information can be transmitted at the click of a button, it is unsurprising that young people develop ideas influenced by the media. Sexual images dominate media activity and are often presented so callously and so recklessly that it is vital that our young people are provided with the media's responsible counterpart through sex and relationship education. 76% of teens surveyed across the country, including those in my own constituency, felt that they needed more sex education. Young people are clearly provided with inconsistent and inadequate SRE. However, teaching sex education too young could exacerbate the effect of the media. I'm sure you'll agree that an understanding of relationships cannot simply be taught on a chalkboard, but requires experience of life, which primary children do not possess. Any primary school teacher will uphold, promote, and encourage the role of a parent as an educator, particularly between the impressionable ages of 5 and 10. It is simply not necessary for the state to interfere with the parents' right to handle this crucial but delicate moral issue with their own young children. Essentially, we are experiencing a tragic loss of childhood. A walk down the high street reveals a depressing trend towards essentially adult designs. Children's pencil cases bearing Playboy symbols. Our children are being sexualised too young, and we must aim to protect this short-lived innocence. SRE is simply inappropriate within a primary curriculum. The issue quite clearly does not lie with when it is taught, but how thoroughly and how consistently. The sex education show recently broadcast found that the main concern of youth is, am I normal? We must not allow young men, and particularly young women, to have their self-images tormented by a media which often fails to acknowledge differences in shape, size, and appearance. We must dispel the illusion amongst youth that they must conform to a media image of perfection and teach them instead the value of their own unique bodies. I believe that teaching children sex education at primary school would be too much, too young. Let us defend the innocence of childhood. It is at secondary school age that SRE becomes crucial for the health and well-being of millions of young people. Thank you.
Maria, thank you for an excellent contribution. Now, who wants to take part in this debate? I need people to indicate, and you've been told how to do so, rising issues. Yes.
Elizabeth Jessup, Cheshire East from North West. We are separated by our social background more than anything else. Therefore, we would be blind to believe that one unilateral policy would be the answer. What is needed is a flexible policy based in the solid aims to reduce STDs, teenage pregnancy rates, and to promote all aspects of relationships. Sexual education is not a condom. One size will not fit all and solve this problem. It's a waste of time, money, and resources if a compulsory but ineffective policy was launched the entire country. Education is there to destroy ignorance, but ignorance will exist in our schools until children are taught not only how to pass an exam, but how to take care of their own well-being. With the right to education and the right to health comes the right to a health education. This is not a question of morality, but a question of equality. Why should some children in this country have sexual education while others do not? In Cheshire, Almost all schools have some form of personal, social and health education and sex education. And in the youth parliament elections, it came in the bottom 3 in all local area partnerships priorities for what they wanted their MYPs to do. And only 1.6% of young people who voted thought that their quality of sex education was an issue. However, in Herefordshire, 60% of young people feel that their sexual education is inadequate. The government has to take responsibility for sexual education just as they do education. For inequality, which affects the basic well-being of a human being, is unacceptable in today's society. Financially, sexual education is also highly viable. If we teach teenagers about preventative measures, then intervention at later times would cost the NHS thousands of pounds less each year, thus helping with the £20 billion efficiency and productivity savings the government has introduced this year. But an education in force has to be altered to the needs of the young people. For if the right topics aren't introduced, then the numbers will continue to rise, money wasted and youth disengaged. And this is why a curriculum finalised at local level will meet the needs of each young person. This way, every young person can be valued and every young person in this country can be equal. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, young gentleman with the red tie at the back, please, let's hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honourable members, we face a vast, growing and serious issue.
It's from which part of the country?
Apologies. I'm Craig Price, MYP for Gloucester and the Forest of Dean. Sorry, Mr. Speaker. As my right honourable friend, Mr. Vincent at the front said, in the past few years we have a rise in STIs, teenage pregnancy, but also relationship violence. Young people in my constituency that sex education, where it exists, which is very limited, often focuses on contraception, infections or not getting pregnant, but it doesn't tackle the wider issues of feelings, emotions, desires, confidence or communication. And we need to put this in an appropriate cultural context. And also, I would like to remind the honourable members here that the Children and Families Bill started to pass through Parliament with some concessions along the way, but unfortunately was dropped due to opposition. Now, me personally and my constituency, which have my backing on this, believe that this is an absolute disgrace and a complete betrayal to young people who have actively requested that sex education is to be better provided.
Thank you. Magnificent. There's now real interest. People are usually very reluctant to go first, but it's great lots of people will now want to take part. Can we have someone from Northern Ireland? Gentleman there.
Dean Molyneux, Lagan Valley. I'd like to look at this from an Irish perspective, first of all. And I believe that teenage pregnancy rates is an appropriate measure of the effectiveness and quality of sex education in any jurisdiction. And it's all fine and well to say that we have the highest in Western Europe, but that has to be looked in context. First of all, in 1971, 50.6 births out of every 1,000 were to teenage mothers. However, in my own region, the north of Ireland, only 23 births out of 1,000 by 2008 were to teenage mothers. That's a massive decrease. And I would perhaps attribute that to a successful sexual education initiative that was initiated by our Department of Health, Social Services and Public Safety in the 6 counties. A 6.6% decrease since 2000, despite the fact that rates were pretty consistent during the 90s. My point would be that we're at severe risk of over-sexualising our primary school children. Their innocence should be safeguarded, not sacrificed for the sake of a statistic.
Thank you. The young lady here.
Poppy Simmons, East Midlands. I feel that we have misnamed this debate, how we call SRE in our schools. I feel that relationships is more important, and this is why I defend and I completely, wholeheartedly agree with Leicestershire County Council's decision to change it to RSE. We have our priorities wrong. Relationships should come first. Relationships is key to good, safe and informed sex. We need to look to relationships first. But then again, I'm not saying that sex is wrong. It's not wrong to have sex. It's good and it can lead to better things. And with that, and with the way that you all laughed, it shows that yes, we are at extreme risk of sexualising our primary school children. But why shouldn't we teach them about relationships? Why shouldn't we teach them about life? Why shouldn't we teach them about how to have good relationships? And then it should lead on to sex. It is not wrong for sex, but yes, it's too early. Therefore, I think we should teach in more context at primary school relationships and then move on to sex. So my point here is that we have our priorities wrong. It should be RSE, relationships first, leading to sex, and that is how we should educate our children.
Who else have we got? And the young man there. Yeah, no, you. Yes, indeed, sir.
Charlie Trotter, NYP4 Northumberland. Yes, I'd like to make the point, first of all, about age in terms of introducing in primary school. I understand in Holland they start from a young age, they start from 5. I can't imagine sort of age 5 they're telling someone, look, this is a picture of what happens if you get an STD. It's not that kind of sadistic. It does start relationship first, and there's other things related to relationships and sex education. In terms of puberty, you can bring in earlier. I think involving sex education in primary school, I think is perfectly sensible. It has also been mentioned that a click of a button in today's society and you see sexual images, and quite often a click of a button is where a lot of people are learning their sex education from, or from friends, from myth, from rumour. The government has an opportunity to tell young people the facts about sex, and it needs to keep up with the media speed and in terms of sexual imaging. Thank you.
Members of the Youth Parliament, we've been joined by 2 more colleagues. Valerie Vaz, put your hand up, Valerie. And we're delighted to see Valerie, who's from Walsall, a Labour member, and Alison McGovern is with us as well from Wirral. So thank you both, colleagues, for coming. Let's hear this young gentleman, who I think is from London. Good.
My name is Landry Adelard, NYP of London, and also Young Mayor of Tower Hamlets. I think it's important that we keep the innocence of young people. I don't think it's a good idea to corrode the minds of young people into thinking, oh, I'm going to catch an STD if I do this, if I do that, because I'm sure I wouldn't want my little brother coming home one day and telling me, today I learned about gonorrhea, I learned about chlamydia. That's not good at all. Also, in Tower Hamlets, we've got, in most primary schools, I'm sure they teach sex education from the age of year 5. They start to teach them about sex, the basics, not going into chlamydia or other sexually transmitted infections and stuff like that. I think, and then once they reach that stage of secondary school, that's when they start to learn more in detail about what's going on, like if you do this, if you do that. So we should keep it as that instead of making them think, I'm 5 years old, when I get to about 11 and I'll do this with a girl, this is going to happen to me. No.
Thank you. Owen Ashworth.
My name is Owen Ashworth from Halton, Northwest. Young people with disabilities, quality of sex education is diabolical in the quality of the information they've been taught to date. That is the best case it can get. Worst for some individuals which has got a disability get no sex education because it is social norms.
Thank you. The young woman just there.
Jenny Davis from Bristol. As it has been said before, this is not about teaching 5-year-olds about STDs,